take a look at the headlines of this hour. Boeing has received orders for 9 CH-47F Block II Chinook helicopters from the U.S. Army worth $461 million. According to the company, this order brings the total number of CH-47F Block II aircraft under contract to 18 aircrafts. The anticipated Putin-Trump summit in Budapest is on hold after Russia rejected a ceasefire proposal following the postponement of a Rubio-Lavrov meeting. Meanwhile, a report by the International Service for Human Rights revealed that China and Russia have repeatedly sought to defund UN human rights programs over the past 5 years. Russian strikes on Kyiv targeting energy facilities killed 2 and ignite fires across nearly half the city's districts. Ukrainian officials say the Putin-Trump summit is shelved after Moscow rejects a ceasefire amid escalating tensions between Russia, the US, and Ukraine. President Donald Trump has said that the Justice Department owes him $230 million for legal costs tied to federal investigations and promises to donate any awarded funds to charity. The claims challenge FBI and special counsel probes into 2016 Russian interference, Mar-a-Lago searches, and alleged malicious prosecution, with Trump denouncing them as politically motivated. China's Commerce Minister has urged the Netherlands to resolve the dispute over Chinese-owned chipmaker Nexperia amid rising trade tensions, while Germany's VDA Industry Association warned that the standoff could severely disrupt its automotive production if chip supplies remain blocked. The U.S. National Transportation Safety Board is sending 5 investigators to Hong Kong to aid in the probe of a Boeing 747 cargo plane that skidded off the runway on Monday. The incident, which killed 2 airport security staff, is Hong Kong's deadliest airport accident in over 2 decades. The UN World Food Programme warned that food supplies entering Gaza remain far below the daily target of 2,000 tons, with only 2 crossings open and none to the famine-hit north, despite a US-brokered ceasefire. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has announced the appointment of Gil Reich as new acting national security advisor. US President Donald Trump has said he held talks with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi focused mainly on trade and energy, with Modi assuring that India would limit oil imports from Russia. Trump has also imposed tariffs on Indian exports to pressure New Delhi over its Russian crude purchases as part of his push to end the Ukraine war. Now we start with Russia and Ukraine. In developments from the Ukraine war, Russia has intensified its attacks on Ukrainian cities. Russian forces have launched strikes across various cities in Ukraine. In overnight strikes on Kyiv, at least 1 person was killed and several others were injured. Russian drone attacks in the Sumy and Chernigiv regions have killed 4 and injured more than 16 people. The local governor has reported that Russia also targeted and damaged Ukraine's gas and oil industry facilities in the Poltava region. Residents in the northern city of Chernigiv experienced widespread electricity blackouts following the Russian strikes. Let's hear from one of the residents there.
Не знаю, насколько надолго. Просто так он не отцепится, потому что, видите, идет зеркальная. Мы поим, они по нам, мы поим, они по нам. Вот это такая ситуация. Ну, и преимущественно все же поговаривают, что у них же там этих шахетов, ракет. Ой. Навряд ли они так просто отцепятся от нас. Ну, как-то будем зимовать же, дай Бог, то самое. Мы больше всего только за ребенка переживаем. За себя-то ладно. Ну, в крайнем случае, в деревню переедем.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that Russia's recent attacks are a result of the halt in the transfer of long-range weapons. President Zelensky has long been seeking advanced weapon systems to strengthen Ukraine's air defenses. Let's listen into what the Ukrainian president has said.
Натомість Росія знову робить все, щоб зіскочити з дипломатії. І як тільки питання далекобійності для нас, для України стало трохи далі, то майже автоматично Росія стала вже менш зацікавленою у дипломатії. Ми провели зустріч з президентом Сполучених Штатів Америки. Ми домовилися, що саме так спробуємо організувати діалог на лінії, яка є зараз. Саме таким був сигнал президента Трампа, його команді. Це було і публічно. Лінія фронту може бути початком дипломатії.
Now for this discussion, we welcome retired Major General Kyiv. He's an international affairs expert, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Major General Kyiv, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now, what are the implications of Russia's intensified attacks on Ukrainian structure while Trump has asked or requested or suggested for a ceasefire? How does this, what's your analysis for the relationship of current Trump administration, Russia, and Ukraine?
Soma, good morning. Thank you for getting me for your show.
Thank you.
You have made very relevant points in the question raised by you. And first and foremost thing is the current status. Russia has intensified its attack against Kyiv or Ukraine. Why is it happening? And second is about the peace talk, which has been stalled for the time being. Donald Trump feels that if the assured returns are not guaranteed, then it's no point wasting time. So hence, I think he's taken a right decision. And third and most important point is where are we heading as far as the Russia-Ukraine war is concerned? So one by one, I'll say Russia is definitely in such a kind of situation where neither side knows as to who's the trigger. These kind of ding-dong battle will carry on and carry on for eternity. Why? Because the root problem is not being addressed. The root problem is to have established security apparatus between Eastern Europe and Russia so that neither the NATO countries, they expand the sphere of influence to the east, nor the militarization which is taking place in past several years, they do have a direct or indirect bearing on the safety and security of Russia. So how do you achieve that? In order to achieve that, like Donald Trump had promised to achieve it within 24 hours, it is not that simple. It's a very complex situation. My take and recommendation is stop the conflict as is, where is basis. Wherever one is, just stop firing. Pull them back by 5 to 10 kilometers. Have a neutral force to ensure that the dividing line, whichever line, call it line of control like India and Pakistan, we have one, and that has to be kept under surveillance and monitor. These are the methods that should be followed, otherwise this conflict will carry on endlessly without. Second point now coming to is the Tomahawk missile. You see, as long as Zelensky does not reconcile to the fact that Russia is too big a power, it cannot contest and counter and contain Russia in any way. It is only pushing its country to a disaster, mindful of the fact he does not have any legal standing as a president. So even if he has to sign off some document, it has to be ratified by the parliament. So therefore, these are very tricky questions. And third and last point is, where are we heading? As per me, Asoma, I personally feel that neither Donald Trump is serious about bringing peace to this region, nor anybody else, because the entire Europe is actually hammer and tongue going after continuance of this particular conflict, because behind the conflict lies the deep state of America and many invisible deep states of Europe. They are benefiting from the conflict. So therefore, my take is some statesman-like figure has to come out. Whether it is Donald Trump or somebody else, I really don't know. The real concerns of Russia have to be addressed. Unless that is addressed, I don't think there is any peace meaningful peace or long-lasting peace will come back to Russia-Ukraine region. Back to you, Sumy.
Yes, as Major General, like you rightfully mentioned, how is this going to end, or where is this heading to? It's all question mark, as U.S. is not that pushy about making sure that this Trump-U.S. Trilateral summit happens. And what do you think about the location? Last week, even this week, we saw locations or comments coming in from Europe about should it be Budapest, and then a lot of leaders appalled to this idea, and then some leaders were like, no, we have to get them somewhere. And then what about Turkey? Like, could it happen over there, or what about Alaska again? What do you think about location if it were to happen, and what do you think about the reaction among the European leaders who appalled to this idea?
Okay, again, multiple points you have raised. Firstly, where are we heading to? We are heading to an eternal conflict, endless conflict. This will continue unless the world leaders, the relevant world leaders, includes Donald Trump, European leaders, and Putin and Zelensky, they actually are serious and sincere. So when is that seriousness and sincerity going to come? In my opinion, it will come only after both the countries and the supporting architectures, they exhaust the complete warlike stores. They are heading towards that. Today, Europe doesn't have enough of shells and bombs. Germany may be talking about supporting Ukraine. The president I'm talking of, people are against supporting Ukraine, but Germany doesn't produce more than 8,000 shells in a month. So the requirement is far greater than what Ukraine requires. So what I'm coming to is, that until they exhaust all the warlike stores, it will continue, because I do not see the real concerns of Russia being addressed by either the NATO or any country. The only person whom I have in my mind, which I will not recommend, is our Honorable Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi. He enjoys a high degree of credibility and reputation, both between Russia and Ukraine. I think he is being heard by both the stakeholders as also the European Union. And Donald Trump may actually sulk and go and hide his face if he doesn't have a breakthrough. I doubt. Coming to the number 2 question is the location. Location matters. Budapest is actually fraught with many issues which are linked to the previous agreements and discussions on the issue. Take your mind back to 2004, take your mind back to the Munich conference, everything related to Budapest, because now it is being very close, it has got a common border, and the president of this country is in favor of Russia, by the way. Let me put it very, very candidly. So any stakeholder, if the leader who's hosting a party or conference, if he's favorable or if he's supporting a particular affected warring country, that is not a conducive situation. Coming to Alaska, yes, it could be one of the options, or coming to any other country. Turkey, I do not recommend, because Erdogan has got his own personality, he's got personal hidden agenda behind everything. So that should be avoided as far as possible. Qatar, I would strongly recommend not to actually opt for Qatar. There are countries you could think of far away from this region. Could be South Korea, could be Japan, could be Indonesia, or could be some place in the Southeast Asia, could be somewhere in the African region. So like these kind of places. And last but not the least is that this particular conflict, Asoma, is actually fraught with mutual distrust. And this distrust is going to kill the whole plan, the concept of bringing ceasefire to this meaningless conflict. Back to you, Asoma.
Thank you very much, Major General Siddhakarji, for sharing that insight. Please stay with us as we come back to you. And now we stay on this topic. U.S. President Donald Trump has stated that the possibility of a fruitless meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin has led him to put plans for a summit with the Russian leader on hold. This comes after earlier reports following a phone call between President Trump and President Putin, which speculated a possible summit in Hungary. President Trump has been pushing for a peace deal beyond ceasefire agreements. The Slovak Prime Minister has also called on the EU to do its part to facilitate a Putin-Trump meeting to achieve peace in Ukraine. Meanwhile, the NATO chief is traveling to Washington to meet with the U.S. president, as the United States has announced that for the moment, no long-range weapons will be transferred to Ukraine. President Trump has highlighted the scorching human cost of the conflict, citing that around 5,000 to 7,000 soldiers are being lost by both Russia and Ukraine each week. Let's listen into what the U.S. president has said.
No, I don't want to have a wasted meeting. I don't want to have a waste of time, so I'll see what happens. But we did all of these great deals, great peace deals. They're all peace deals, agreements, solid agreements, every one of them. But this one, and I said, go to the line of battle, the battlefield lines, and you pull back and you go home, and everybody take some time off, because you got two countries that are killing each other. You got two countries that are losing 5,000 to 7,000 soldiers a week. So we'll see what happens. We haven't made a determination.
Now we move on. Venezuelan Defense Minister Vladimir Padrino has stated that Venezuela's commitment to supporting Colombia remains unchanged amid heightened tensions between Colombia and the United States. Padrino has vowed Venezuela's military support to Colombia against U.S. actions. He has said that Colombia must know that it can count on the Bolivarian National Armed Forces. Let's listen in.
Colombia debe saber que cuenta con la Fuerza Armada Nacional Bolivariana. El pueblo de Colombia debe saber que cuenta de este lado con el apoyo moral, físico y el despliegue en nuestro territorio para enfrentar todas las amenazas que se ciernen sobre la frontera. El que no diga sí, se arrodille y diga sí, baje la cabeza ante el imperialismo norteamericano, ya corre el riesgo de ser señalado como narcotraficante. Esa es la estrategia, pues burda, una estrategia de verdad estrafalaria, una estrategia sin sentido, una estrategia vulgar que ofende la inteligencia de los pueblos de América Latina y del Caribe.
Meanwhile, Colombian President Gustavo Petro has accused U.S. President Donald Trump of violating international agreements and acting as a king in Latin America. This comes after Washington imposed new tariffs and cut aid to Colombia. Tensions between the U.S. and Colombia have flared after Trump called Petro a drug leader and announced new tariffs, prompting Colombia to recall its ambassador from Washington. President Petro has repeatedly denied supporting drug trafficking and accused the U.S. of overstepping its boundaries in the region. Let's listen into what the Colombian president has said.
De diversas maneras. Puede ser por el mismo Trump, la más fácil. Si no, sácala a Trump. Que yo no apoye a los norteamericanos con el ejército colombiano para invadir Venezuela. No, señor. ¿A qué estúpido colombiano se le puede ocurrir ayudar a invadir donde están sus primos, sus sobrinos, su gente colombiana, que hay 4 millones, a que los maten como en Gaza?
Now we move on to our next news. A posthumous memoir by Virginia Giuffre called Nobody's Girl went on sale in bookstores worldwide this week. Giuffre had accused Britain's Prince Andrew of sexually abusing her as a teenager. Much of the contents of the book were reported before its release, triggering renewed scrutiny on Prince Andrew, King Charles's brother. Andrew's conduct and connections with the late U.S. sex offender Jeffrey Epstein have long been criticized. Andrew has always denied Jeffrey's accounts. In Nobody's Girl, Giuffre wrote that she feared she might die a slave under Epstein's control and described 3 alleged sexual encounters with Andrew in London, New York, and on the late financier's private island. According to one legal analyst, there is no guarantee of legal ramifications as a result of the publication. Let's listen in.
The memoir, Nobody's Girl, is incredibly sad, and you read Jufri's story of being groomed and sexually abused by Epstein and others. And we've seen a lot of high-profile cases recently where victims of sexual assault have come forward and they haven't been believed. In the Diddy case, for instance, the jurors rejected the sex trafficking allegations. And in the Harvey Weinstein retrial, jurors only accepted one of the three victims. So certainly difficult for victims to come forward, especially when they aren't believed in different legal cases.
That's all we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.